Welcome to Economic Lifelines Nigeria, the show that takes you on an in-depth look at Nigeria's economic redemption strategy, one intervention at a time. I'm Keisha Gitari, and in today's episode, we're delving into the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria, that's AMCON's Tinapa Rescue Mission. Tinapa is a business and leisure resort which opened in 2007 in Calabar, southeastern Nigeria. The project was conceived to be Africa's premier business resort within the Calabar Free Trade Zone. The project was to be rolled out in 3 phases within a public-private partnership between the Cross River State Government and willing investors. The resort intended to make available 80,000 square meters of lettable space for retail and wholesale trade, while the entertainment strip made provision for a casino, digital cinema, children's arcade, restaurants, a mini amphitheater, nightclubs, pubs, and a water park. But several of these are still on the drawing board. Tinapa is also home to what was touted to be the most modern film production facility in Nigeria at the time of commission.
When the governor was elected, he decided to develop the state on the basis of 2 platforms, agriculture and tourism. Cross River State has several natural tourist attractions, about 20 of them, the major one being the ranch. So our first activity was to redevelop the ranch. Calabar is the hub, but there's no real tourism attraction in Calabar, so we need to put something there because people will come, spend a night or 2 before they can go to the ranch. Those driving might want to spend a night and then drive the 6 hours. So we called KPMG to come up with something that would work. And after 9 months of market research and all that, they came up with the concept that you see there, which basically is, again, you would understand that then Cross River State was a very poor state. So we couldn't have done it as government alone. We wanted to participate with the private sector. So KPMG told us that, look, if you want private money, you need to generate income. And leisure and entertainment alone will not generate income that will attract the private sector. So they came with this concept where Tinapa will be developed as a business tourism product. So driven by business, but then you have to put in some attractions, some leisure activities, some entertainment activities, so that when the businessmen come and they're doing their businesses, they have places to go at night. If they come with their family, the kids have places to go to while they're doing their businesses. So the whole concept was based on this.
Tinapa was initiated by former Cross River State Governor Donald Duke as a way to boost tourism and business in the state. Over $350 million was spent on the first phase of the project, with a vision to tap into Nigeria and West Africa's vast trade culture by creating a Dubai-styled development.
You look at Dubai, which is today the model for free zones. 30 years ago, when the Sheikh went into the middle of the desert and said he was going to build the biggest man-made port in the middle of the desert, most people would have said, white elephant, pipe dream, it's not going to work, and so on. And yet, look at it today. So the fact is that on a daily basis, something like 1,000 Nigerians are leaving Nigeria. You have about 9 flights out of Nigeria into Dubai. And that is the equivalent of about $10 million on a daily basis. Over $3 billion per annum going into the Dubai economy. Now, if you present them with an offering here where they can get the things that they have in Dubai at the same price or even better, then they will surely come. And that's what the business model is based on. The fact is also that Cross River had decided to proceed on its development on 2 planks, tourism and commerce. And Tinapa represents an amalgamation of the 2, where you can come for leisure and you can also do your shopping, and where you can come for shopping and also do your leisure.
However, red tape soon engulfed the project. In 2008, a year after opening for business, the federal government had yet to approve Tinapa's operating procedures and guidelines. And market rumors around the delay cast doubts on the legal status of the project as a free trade zone, weakening investor confidence, while the interest payments on loans raised to fund the construction were piling up. The lack of investors and the crippling debt are the two key reasons why the Tinapa Business Resort failed to achieve its initial targets.
I must say that the major challenge with the Tinapa project, it's around the regulatory reform. Remember very well, it's a PPP project. Unfortunately, the challenge has to do with the legislation with respect to the ownership and the authority of the state government to run a free trade zone. Apparently, based on Nigerian law, a free trade zone is only run by a federal entity, and that's because of the tax attraction to the free trade zone. Unfortunately, the PPP arrangements that led to the Tinapa project itself did not consider the federal government as a stakeholder. So that, to a very large extent, was the first major problem that the project had. And that has to do with the fact that the tax incentive that the investors had expected weren't there ab initio. For example, you must have heard of cases where there was squabble and conflict between the traders in there and the custom authorities. Apparently, as an investor in Tinapa, you would expect that you're selling a duty-free goods, and of course, it shouldn't be taxable.
Right from the beginning, the idea, after the feasibilities were prepared, was that you would have a number of international investors who would take a look at the offering and would put their money into the project. By the end of the day, by the time it was commissioned, not a single international investor had put their money down. Now, the reasons that were advanced were several. They said it was the environment, it was the fact that if you Googled Southeast Nigeria, all that you saw was militancy and problems, armed robbery, kidnapping, and so on and so forth. So there really wasn't the research to find out whether there was actually an oasis of calm, which is what Cross River and Calabar represents in all that turmoil, with great opportunity. And you also had the fact that at the time that it was being commissioned, that was during an election period, and most pundits had said, oh, there was going to be a lot of problem in Nigeria, and so on and so forth. Now, subsequently, by the time we started, there were the well-known challenges that came up. Of course, like everyone knows, is that the Gazette was not prepared and was not ready at the time that it was commissioned. So you had a number of disappointed tenants who came in and could not sell at the beginning. It took a couple of years before the Gazette was eventually completed and printed. And ever since then, it's been an uphill task trying to get the tenants to come back in. That's what has really discouraged the international community from investing directly. Right now, however, you do have a few international tenants who are in Tinapa and have been building up from Thailand, from India, from Eastern Europe. It would appear that those people are quite aggressive and are looking at the opportunities. And they've been here for upwards of 3 years and continue expanding in their operations.
After the break, we look at Amcon's intervention in Tinapa, more economic lifelines in just a moment. Now let's uncover how Amcon is intending to rescue the project. Tinapa's mounting debt led to a court battle between the resort and Union Bank. Both parties were still locked in litigation when Union Bank sold its Tinapa debt to Amcon in December 2010. Amcon's decision to buy Tinapa's debt and invest in the project was met with mixed feelings, as many people viewed the project as a financial black hole from inception.
Tinapa was never going to introduce or to attract foreign investment. And the reasons are very simple. Capital is always looking for the most viable opportunities in the market. Tinapa was a bit expensive. And in fairness, I think that there were several factors that contributed to it being expensive. First was the location. If you were a big construction company and you had to win a contract in Tinapa to build Tinapa, $350, $400 million projects in 2005, 2007, you generally would need significant cash to mobilize to that sort of site. The availability of materials and the key things that would make contracting actually easy wasn't exactly very easy with Tinapa. The closest airport, at that time there were just so many difficulties. Now, if you put that and you ask yourself, if you cited a Tinapa, for example, in Port Harcourt, or you cited a Tinapa in Lagos, the dynamics change completely, because then from a proximity point of view, proximity to economic activity and all of that, it's a more compelling story. And what generally people tell you is that the proximity to other economic activities is a major variable that determines the success or otherwise of projects such as Tinapa. And that's where you start to imagine that in the visioning of Tinapa, that should have taken a significant amount of time in convincing the sponsors as well as the advisors that, look, there was some level of economic activity that you could engender as a result of Tinapa being there. And that economic activity will basically drive the viability of the project. But obviously, from what we can see today, it doesn't appear that a lot of those structures were put in place before the project started. And that's why you've ended up in the situation where Tinapa is today. From an economic point of view, Tinapa was more of a social project by the then Cross River State government. The intention was basically to build this, very big, very large infrastructure play and hopefully attract investors to Tinapa. Now, two things happened. First, Tinapa was expecting to get an export processing zone type zoning from the Obasanjo government. That dragged on forever. By the time it came, Tinapa had already failed, as a project. Now, the reality is that if Tinapa was sponsored by private individuals, that is a project that would have died a long time ago. Would have probably seen a second or a third round of sales to people who buy distressed assets, or to investors who invest in distressed assets. And that's the key question here, to say, does that project in any way provide an opportunity in the long term for an investor to be able to recover their investment without any form of intervention or patronage from government? The easy answer to that is no. Now, would international investors put their money in such projects? The easy answer to that as well is no.
Frankly, what happened was Amcon came on board because of a debt that we owed Union Bank. And when Amcon took over Union Bank, both assets and liabilities became their responsibility. Now, they had a choice. We were in court with Union Bank, who wanted us wound up and sold. And I think it was a very cold-blooded and pragmatic decision that had to be taken. And the reality was that if Amcon went ahead with that, we're going to all be tied up in court for quite a number of years. And even if and when the order would be given for it to be wound up, then when all creditors are assembled, Amcon would not have received up to a quarter of what it had spent or what it owed or owned as a liability. So they asked us, well, what do we do? And we said, well, take a look at Tinapa and let's interrogate the whole process and the concept. Is it bad to have a free trade zone in which Nigerians can come in freely and buy goods duty-free and help reduce the massive hemorrhage of foreign exchange that we're seeing, and also change the economy of the region and also improve our image? Is that bad? And the answer, of course, was no. So it's not bad. So what do we do? What is responsible for it being where it is? And we showed very clearly that it was debt. We're owing billions. We could not borrow money from the banks. There were a number of infrastructural projects that we needed to get finished in order for Tinapa to really be a well-oiled machine. And we put together a proposal, a business plan, which Amcon took, interrogated, and came to the conclusion that it was reasonable, it was conservative, and it was doable.
Amcon is set to invest 26 billion naira in Tinapa, having brought over the project's 18.5 billion naira debt from Union Bank. While there have been some dissenting voices regarding Amcon's decision to support the project, to others it is a welcome lifeline.
The reality is that you save projects or companies that ab initio were viable, have strong economic contributions, and sustainable in the long term. Now, Tinapa probably only ticks one of those boxes. It's not viable for obvious reasons. First, it's in Calabar, where whilst most of the economic activity in Nigeria probably takes place in Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt, Calabar just looks like an off-of-the-road destination for anyone looking to do the type of investment that Tinapa is targeting. Is it viable? It's proven itself not to be viable, which is why it has run into trouble. Will Amcon coming into Tinapa suddenly make it a more viable project? Absolutely not, because the reality is that the economics haven't changed. You've still not been able to attract the level of patronage that you expect or that you would imagine would make it Tinapa viable. And you've just got to deal with those issues. Ultimately, it's a function of what really is Amcon in business to do. Is Amcon in business to basically save everybody who comes to them for help, or be selective about the sort of solutions that you're providing to the market?
The dissenting voices, some of them are well meant, but they should understand the facts of the situation. Currently, Amcon has non-performing loans of about close to 20 billion in Tinapa. There is no option of getting that money back by shutting down Tinapa. There is nobody who will buy Tinapa as it stands. So the option of shutting down Tinapa means you will lose your 20 billion naira. So the question they have to ask is, what's the next best alternative? And we have studied the matter carefully, and we decided that reviving Tinapa gives us the best chance of recouping some, if not all, of the 20 billion already sunk into the place, at least from Amcon's point of view. The total money sunk into Tinapa to date is well in excess of that. But we believe that there's a very good chance of recouping those monies by reviving Tinapa to its original design and state. That will be a signal achievement of not just Amcon, but of the nation and of Cross River State. Where we are now is that we reached the agreement with Cross River State government. The next step, we believe, will be to find an international world-class operator that believes in the project, that can give us a clear operating plan with clear milestones that they will stand by. And if we're satisfied with the operator and the operating plan, then we'll proceed to put additional funds in and revive Tinapa.
Tinapa is like a very, very well kept secret in the international community. And with the coming of Amcon and with the kind of funding that they will put down, we expect that this will now give everyone an opportunity to participate in what it has to offer. And therefore, this investment by them is, for me, the best option, really, for them. It has a number of the multiplier effects on the economy as well. I don't think Amcon was set up just to be an undertaker for companies. Tinapa could easily employ over 20,000 people. And if it means the very careful application of funds and resources to achieving certain things that can make it begin to work properly, then I think that that's the proper thing for them to do. So for the naysayers, yeah, you'll always have naysayers. Las Vegas had some of the biggest naysayers, and they made their points with bullets as well. Dubai has had naysayers. Every successful free zone has had its own naysayers. Even on a next door that is turning over $1 billion per annum, had its own naysayers. So we just need to have a reasonable. Let our expectations be reasonable. It's not going to change overnight, but over time. And you can already see the signs, from the fact that the value of land around Tinapa has gone up, from the fact that you now have private businesses beginning to provide support services, taxis, that the women who were planting an acre before now plant a hectare of vegetables because the hotel is doing so well, that the souvenirs, that the people that have little patent medicine stores, the numbers have increased, and so on. That's the multiplier effect on the economy that we are talking about.
We need to recognize the fact that when you're looking at that project, you shouldn't look at it just from the economic benefit that it stands, that Amcon as an investor stands to gain from it. I think we should also look at it from the social perspective. Tinapa working, for instance, like I mentioned earlier, would boost tourism and commerce in Cross River State. Not only that, I think we should also look at the benefit that you may have from that with respect to reviving the Calabar port, which to a very large extent I think it's underutilized as we speak now. Besides that, the Honey port is actually not fully utilized, and that's because of the fact that so many imports that comes in today is still done through Lagos ports, either the Tinkan or the other port terminals in Lagos. I think there is more volume that can actually be done through the Calabar port and even the Honey port in River State, but that requires you to have a very good commerce base, which I think is one of the things that Tinapa has got to present. We're talking about 80,000 square meters here. We're talking of something that actually could also potentially attract tourists into Calabar. And of course, you agree with me that Calabar itself is a tourist attraction in Nigeria. So be it that Amcon is also considering the social benefit and the integration of that project with other sectors of the economy within the state and the neighboring states.
We believe that with more funds, we'll have more business. With more business, there will be more cash. And with more cash, we'll be able to expand the facility. At the moment, we send our guests to other hotels in town. The present facility cannot even accommodate the request we have been receiving from customers outside there, because we have created uncommon value for our customer. As you are aware, perception brings the customer in, value retains the customer. So we have created irresistible value that every customer wants to come into Tinapa Lakeside Hotel. Therefore, we view the coming on board of Amcon as a welcome development, because inevitably, our facilities, the hotel will be expanded.
Whilst the direct impact of Amcon's intervention is yet to be felt, there are those that have been brave enough to venture into Tinapa despite its multiple challenges. Ebony Life TV, a global black multi-broadcast entertainment network, has taken up residence at the Tinapa Dream Studios and is breathing new life into the previously abandoned sound stages.
Well, as you may know, and for those that don't know, Studio Tinapa was built about 8 years ago. It was built with the vision that build it and they will come. We understand and we all know how media and entertainment has thrived all over the world. And we don't have any purpose-built structures in Nigeria that caters to the needs of the industry. So that was why it was built. But for whatever reasons, it's been pretty empty. Well, not pretty, it has been empty for that entire period. And on a visit to interview His Excellency Governor Loli Moke, Senator Loli Moke, he said, would you consider partnering with us and using this as your base? Now, the plan all along had been that I would build studios in Lagos. Lagos is where I am familiar with and where I've always worked. That trip to Calabar was my second trip to Calabar in my entire life. The first one, I was actually passing through Calabar to go to Uyo, so it was really my first trip ever to Calabar. Beautiful place, lovely place, amazing people. And that's how this relationship started, whereby His Excellency just said, consider it. So I went away, I did think about it. I did put together a presentation, went back to Calabar several times after that to present the vision about building a media and entertainment city at Studio Tinapa, which is what we've done. Amcon being a part of sort of giving Tinapa a new lease of life, there's no way in the world it will not impact on Ebony Life TV and Tinapa Studios, because it's obviously going to bring a new life back to what's existing in Tinapa as we know it. So with that happening, it's just going to be a lot more traffic, a lot more going on, a lot more energy, a lot more life, you know, and investment, which we hope will trickle down to us in some way, shape or form. I don't know what that will be right now, but we hope that maybe we can service some of the companies that are coming in there with, you know, maybe they may need to, you know, have TV commercials made, or they may need our services in one way or another. So I think that there would be something, I think there will be something that will come out of that relationship, definitely for us.
You know, the fact that today you have a studio with an international personality like Mo Abudu, and a number of international clients who come in and are interviewed. You know, it's given Tinapa a positive image. It has increased foot traffic in there. It has created opportunities for people in the movie industry and the glamour and entertainment industry to actually begin to come into Tinapa and express surprise that such a facility actually exists. And this was part of the original plan anyway, that you would bring in entertainment to take care of the leisure aspect, even while the hardcore wholesale business is ongoing. So to my mind, and from what we can see in the increased traffic into the resort, the arrival of Ebony Life has been a very big boost.
Tinapa Business and Leisure Resort is at a crossroad, and only time will tell whether or not Amcon's support will be enough to adequately revive it. And while it is clear that there are challenges, the coming of Ebony Life TV highlights the possibilities available to investors.